time for an upcycle 3 of my all-time favorite mirror makeovers. Check it out. It is quite common for me to see mirrors like this when I'm thrifting, and it's something that most people might normally walk by, but if you combine it with something else after you clean it up, you can actually make it quite lovely. And the thing you can combine it with are these awesome wood frames. You know how you see these and you're like, gosh, what am I going to do with that? What can I put in it? Sometimes these types of frames make people nervous because they don't know if it needs glass, if it doesn't. But the thing that you've got to remember is that you can combine things. Like this mirror fits perfectly behind this frame, and it's also incredibly thin. So instead of worrying about finding a piece of glass to fit a frame or a piece of art, just take a mirror, something similar to this that's very thin, use a little bit of hot glue along the edges, and then make sure when you fit it on your back of your frame that you're only seeing the mirror through the picture side. And that's that. Instead of worrying about finding a piece of glass or something that will actually fit inside the frame, you've done it with a thrifted mirror that cost about $1. So this is a great way to combine two items, make a beautiful piece. You can even paint the edge of the mirror if you want, but honestly, once you hang it up, you can't see anything on the wall. The sides are not at all visible. Very simple way to combine a couple of thrifted pieces to make something unique for your home. Next up, I'm going to actually show you how to take a piece of glass from a separate frame that I thrifted that will fit in this awesome frame that I'm going to rework and actually turn it into a mirror. Y'all ask me about this one all the time, and it's so simple. Before anybody asks, I'm opting to paint the frame after I do the glass because I want to get the mirror piece inside the frame and adjusted before I mess with painting the outside of the frame. I just want it secure in there. But if you want to paint your frame first, you can do that as well. It's up to you, whatever you like to do. So I've got my piece of glass inside the frame upside down. I've cleaned it. Now I'm going to take a little bit of distilled white vinegar and spray the piece of glass. The reason I'm doing this is because I want my mirror effect paint to have a very vintage, old school vibe feel to it. So once I've got a little distilled white vinegar, I'm going to come through and do one coat back and forth of my mirrored effect paint. I'm going to let it dry for 1 minute, and then I'm going to come through and do another coat. I'm going to continue to repeat this 5 times. One coat, wait a minute, one coat, wait a minute, one coat, wait a minute, and do that 5 times. Also make sure before you use this mirror effect paint that you give it a good shake, a solid shake for about a minute. Again, I opted to do the piece of glass with the mirror effect inside the back of the frame because you're putting the paint on the back side of the glass and the side that shows through is just the reflection of the mirrored effect paint. I decided to do it that way just because I didn't want to handle it and mess with it. But if you want to paint your frame first, you absolutely can. Whichever order feels best for you. Between my 4th and 5th coat, I went ahead and put just a little bit more distilled vinegar spray just to kind of make sure I had that vintage vibe with my piece of glass that I'm turning into a mirror. And then I just put the backing on and push down the nails very gently. And then when you flip it over, you've got a mirror. Now, again, if you want yours to not have that kind of distressed look like it's super old, you would not use the distilled vinegar between your mirror effect coats. But I've got my piece of glass that I turned into a mirror securely safe inside that frame. I'm more comfortable taping the glass and then painting the frame afterwards. So of course, black evergreen, y'all know I love this color. Come through, give it a light coat. Love doing it this way because I know that, again, my mirror is already safe in place and I don't have to worry about handling it after I put the mirror effect paint on it. Then once it's all dry, I'm just going to come through with a little bit of rub and buff and give it just a little bit over some of those edges to kind of give it that vintage old school look, like it's a super old frame. And I think the gold mixes really great with the black evergreen. And that's it. Once I've customized it the way I want and I let it dry, I've got this great old looking vintage mirror I created myself with a piece of glass out of another piece of artwork and then this awesome frame that I just gave new life to. So remember, if you want to make your own mirrors, you absolutely can. It really is such a cool project and really fun. You can do this mirror effect paint on all sorts of different cool items that you thrift. Last but not least, this is one of my favorite upcycles. When I saw this mirror, I just thought it was such a great piece and it reminded me of an old table. And then of course I had this luggage rack that I thrifted as well. I gave the luggage rack a coat of black spray paint, and then I wanted to do something really fun with the mirror and make it into a table. So all I used was a Sharpie and a Tic Tac container. And you might be asking, why did I use the Tic Tac container? Well, once I got my luggage rack painted black, I realized that there was a couple of little pieces missing off the mirror. And they're like a little white shell. So I thought, you know what? I think that this little piece of the Tic Tac container I can cut off and make to fit into that place. And it works perfectly as a little substitute for all the little pieces that were missing. So I just glue that in place after I trim it, and then just come through with a Sharpie so I can kind of cover up the miscoloration and make a really cool pattern mixed with the white and the black. And I love the way black and white look together, especially when you do different kind of cool designs. And then just use a few zip ties to zip tie that big mirror to your luggage rack, and you've got a really great table. So you've combined a couple of thrifted items, a little top of a Tic Tac container, and a Sharpie, and you've made this really great, beautiful, unique piece. And you've also kept some stuff out of a landfill, which is really cool. This is one thing I love so much about upcycling, is just combining different pieces to make the most unique, beautiful items. So get out there, get creative, and have some fun with it. Happy upcycling.